Hey everyone, welcome back to Solo Party. My name is Kane, and today we are beginning our Chronicles of Drunagor Awakenings campaign. So let's jump right into the prologue. You open your eyes, surprised to notice you have dozed off. You examine the room from the crackling fireplace to your partner sitting next to you. Their face looks intrigued as it seems they have been calling for you all this time. Where have you been? They ask. You lean back in the comfortable armchair and look out the window. You see the falling snow of winter's end. A deep breath makes your chest rise. The answer is many places and more. You've been everywhere in Darren for the past few months, in fact. Your partner knows it well, as both of you have just come back from a job. You and your group followed the usual rite: sit, split the booty, pay your respects to the fallen, eat, drink, and tell tales. Then each one goes their way, and still you felt that something was amiss. You thinking back about the Doctrine's expedition? Your partner asks. You scratch your face in your head. You feel your stiff neck. Yes, you are. It's been bothering me too, since the Doctrine refused to tell us anything. What do you think happened? There's no need to think long. When one lives as mercenaries, selling their goods to anyone who is willing to pay, disappearing usually means they are not among the living anymore. You shake your head negatively. Your partner sighs. Aren't you glad you didn't accept it, though? I sure am. You can't say. Ha ha! You're still too green for that. You hear someone in the tavern lecturing a youngster. The words take you back many years before to a place just like this one, where your master, Minerva, uttered the same words to you. You were eager to join her, the woman who saved, trained, and raised you. You asked her, swore her you were ready, but you weren't. Minerva knew, as she had always known you. She could read you like an open book. It was just like the night she left to accept an expedition for the Doctrine of the Setting Sun. You're still too green, she said on the occasion. You protested, saying you would be a reliable asset, but Minerva was unyielding. The Doctrine's affairs are always ugly. I don't want you there. Stay here with the crows. Take care of them for me, and when I get back, with my pockets heavy, we're going to have some well-deserved rest, she said, laughing it out. That very night, your master said her goodbyes, tapping twice on your forehead as she always did when leaving. That was her way of showing her love. There was no space for hugs in that tough world of yours. You now understand that you have been waiting for her to get back since then, trying to protect yourself from the possibility that she might not have survived. Minerva was the strongest person you knew, but sometimes that's not enough. Fate strikes like an unstoppable force. A log in the fire snaps and brings you back to the warm room. Looking at your partner, you see their eyes staring back at yours. With a tired smile, you tell them you need some time off. And where are you going, Elan? Threshold? You shake your head, turning to the window. Winter's coming to an end, but not the gloomy atmosphere in Darren. There's been too much death lately. The days feel both darker and shorter, like the sun itself has become old and lazy. No, you need warmth after a long winter. Minerva has always said that life was too short for bitterness. You are going to the Free Islands, as your master suggested before leaving for her last job. The sun and the sea breeze will do you good. Your partner smiles back at you. Then farewell, my friend. As our master used to say, live with no regrets. Chapter 1. Untimely Holidays. Cold drinks, warm beds, revelry with common folks. Your first night in Eradrin gave you everything you were looking for in such a remote and festive place. Anyone who saw you lively and energetic the way you were on that occasion could have sworn you had put your adventure days behind you, settled down, and embraced the comforts of a fixed abode. But getting out of this life is never that easy, is it? The moon moves across the sky while the chirping of crickets conducts the symphony of dawn. Your mind drunkenly travels along paths only it knows. This was the first time in a long time that you were sleeping in peace. You were definitely in need of a break from everything. Suddenly, a scream and the sound of shattering glass brings you back from ale doziness in the realm of dreams. Your scars hurt. Being superstitious as you are, you know this is not a good sign. Suspicion proves you right as you lean out the window and notice a pack of silhouettes that have flooded the streets. Antlers, big hairy bodies, shadows, masks, smoke, and screams. A carnival that on the surface seems to be part of the celebrations, but the attacks on the transients and their screams tell a different story. You reach for your gear in a hurry as you prepare to leave the place. You curse the racket that has disrupted your holidays, but still, you don't expect that some strange figures had already made their way to your door. At first, you think these monster shapes are just guests in costumes playing tricks. But their bodies are on fire, and they are screaming at the top of their lungs as if begging for help. The strangeness was thankfully short. Those things were not grunting because of the pain of burning flesh, but because they could no longer speak. Whatever they once were, today, twisted who knows how or why, they are no longer themselves, and they certainly aren't in trouble anymore. They are the trouble. The setup for this scenario tells us that we are going to be using the Growing Influence rune card. So the events of Awakenings are a prologue to the events of Age of Darkness, and the darkness hasn't quite reached the level of corruption yet, but it is still important to track the runes, so we have a card for that. It also tells us that before we start to play this adventure, we're going to take 4 runes of each of the 5 colors from the bag and place them on the initiative track. But again, we're still not placing darkness tokens yet. Door number 1 is also locked until the last enemy is defeated. And the inn is on fire. With the roaring flames threatening your room, you must make your way through the monsters as fast as you can. Place a special event token on top of the rune card as a reminder, and when the initiative marker reaches that card, after resolving its effects, remove the token and read Cutscene, Redecorating on page 34. And we have just regular win and loss conditions for this scenario, so let's get right to it. First up in initiative order is Vakram, who has our Bruiser dungeon role, which replaces Defender, meaning he's going first in initiative order. He's got a passive ability that's going to give him +1 damage to his weapon attacks whenever he's adjacent to 2 or more enemies. So I think we want to use that move to get right up into the mix so we can use our Arcing Swing and get that +1 bonus damage. So Vakram is going to move right in between the Hellspawn Brutes and roll for the attack. And he got a 15, which means I'll be doing 4 damage to both of the Hellspawn Brutes. Then next, we will perform his Staggering Strike, which is a +0 to hit and stun melee skill. We'll go ahead and target the yellow Hellspawn Brute. And we could not have started off better than this. We rolled a nat 20, which is going to double our damage, meaning we got the +1 bonus from being adjacent to 2 or more enemies, making it 4, doubled is 8, which is exactly how much HP the Hellspawn Brute had. So we don't even need to stun it, we just straight up kill it. And that will be it for Vakram's turn. So next up we have Andreas, who is in our Warden dungeon role. It's going to come with 2 passives, the first being Hero Backer. Weapon attacks made by other heroes commanded by you gain a bonus of +3 to hit, and he also gains the Warden trait from the Sentinel skill. Warden says that characters who have the Warden trait can use interrupts and reactions with the keyword self on other characters as long as they are adjacent to them. So the first thing we'll do, we'll move Andreas into the fight, and we're going to be going against this blue Gremlin Horde. Let's go ahead and take a look at their card, because this will be important for assigning damage. So the Gremlin Horde have large monster immunities, which include Knockdown, Polymorph, Push, Stun, and Telekinesis. 4 movement, 4 attack, and 6 health, and they are melee units. You see they have the Swarm ability, which means weapon attacks made against them will be halved and rounded up. So a 7 damage attack would deal 4 total damage. And then they also have Enrage and Knockdown as collateral abilities. So our weapon attacks with Andreas are only going to deal half damage, but if we can get plenty of attacks in there, we should still be able to take it down before it activates. So we'll go ahead and start by moving Andreas 2 spaces forward, and using a melee cube for our defensive strike. That's going to give us 2 shield and then +3 to hit. And we will hit on a 12. So 3 damage rounded up because of Swarm will be 2 damage to the Gremlin Horde. Next, we'll use a range cube for our baton pass on the Warden dungeon roll. That's going to let us swap with another target hero. So we're going to swap with Vakram. And then the hero we swap with makes a weapon attack for +3 to hit. Now, since we're commanding Vakram to attack, it's going to get another +3 for our passive, meaning it's +6 to hit, so only a 1 will miss. And this is going at the blue Gremlin Horde as well. And a 15 will do it for another 2 damage. So that will do it for Andreas' turn, and now we're on to the Hellspawn Brutes. Now let's take a look at the Hellspawn Brute card. It's going to have immunities to Burn and Knockdown, 12 health, 3 movement, 4 attack. It's a melee unit. It has Warcry, Cleave 2, and Burn 1 as a collateral damage. So what Warcry is going to do on its activation, any adjacent allies in range 1 are going to receive a +1 damage bonus. And Cleave 2 means that it is going to be trying to hit at least 2 of us during its melee attack, and then Burn 1 for collateral damage if we suffer any from that attack. So when the Warcry goes off, that green Gremlin Horde will get a +1 damage token. And now that there's no way for the Hellspawn Brute to get to 2 targets for its attack, it's just going to stay where it is and attack Andreas for 4 damage. And so first, Andreas has 2 shield, meaning we have 2 more damage that we're taking, and we will go ahead and use our blue cube for our divert, which will let us prevent 3 and take no damage. And now we have Katharina's turn. So even though we have the blue Gremlin Horde down to 2 health, the green Gremlin Horde is the one that now has the +1 damage, so I kind of want to focus my attention onto that. And if we can pull off this move with Katharina, we should be able to take it out on Katharina's turn. We're going to try this Black Plague weapon attack, and if we hit, the next spell or weapon attack made against the target this turn gains +4 damage. And so if we do that with a spell attack, then the swarm ability won't half it, and we should be able to kill it in one go. So Katharina will start by moving forward to get in range of the green Gremlin Horde. And now we're going to roll for our Black Plague. And I swear I cannot make this up. We just rolled another 20. So that's going to be double damage, which is 6. Halved is 3 damage. And our next attack against this creature this round will deal +4 damage. And I don't feel like there's any reason we need to risk it. We're just going to go ahead and use our blue cube to deal spell damage. For 2, +4 is 6. That doesn't get negated by swarm, so that is enough to take out the green Gremlin Horde. And so now we have Nyx in our Slayer dungeon role, which replaces the Striker dungeon role. She's got the passive Pew Pew, so at the beginning of turn, if you are adjacent to 2 or more enemies, then she gets to catalyze. And what that means is that her next action cube that she spins is a wild cube. And what wild cubes do is they can be any color cube, and you still follow the range rules of the color cube you use, but then also any numerical values on the skill you use are doubled. And then we also have the passive Stalker from the Slayer role. And so what the Slayer trait does is that allows us to stay in stealth for longer. So instead of it getting removed at the beginning of our turn, it's not going to get removed until the end of our turn. And so I think with Nyx, we're going to try to move up and finish off that Gremlin Horde so no Gremlin Hordes will get to activate on their turn. And then once we've cleared that, we'll be able to make a ranged attack towards the Hellspawn Brute. So let's start by moving into melee range of the Gremlin Horde. And then we're just going to use our melee skill that gives us the most bonus to hit. So we're going to do our Jack of all blades to get +3 to hit and keen. And keen is the new keyword that basically just means the crit on a 16 or higher. And we rolled a 7, which will get us there. And 3 damage halved rounded up is 2, which is enough to finish off the Gremlin Horde. And now that they're out of the way, we can do a ranged attack onto the Hellspawn Brute. And we're going to use our Pounce ability from Slayer, which gives us +3 to hit, and if the target is fine, it takes bleed 4, and fine is a keyword that is going to mean if it is at half health or higher, and the Hellspawn Brute has not been damaged yet, so if we hit, we will be able to put bleed 4 on it. Alright, so we did roll a 4 with +3 to hit is enough to get us the damage we needed. Oh, but I did forget. It looks like we did take damage from that arcing swing from Vakram earlier. So we were at 8. 3 damage takes us to 5, which is actually less than we need for fine. So we won't get to add the bleed 4, but the Hellspawn Brute is down to 5 health. And we defeated all the Gremlin Hordes, so they will not be activating. And now we get to our rune card. Alright, so let's get a reminder about what Growing Influence does. We're going to draw a rune, but runes drawn by this card do not spawn any darkness tiles, and then we're going to flip the card. So, get our rune bag, and we got the blue rune. And then we were also instructed to read Cutscene Redecorating on page 34 when the initiative marker got to the rune card. As you fight the uninvited monstrosities, you cannot help but notice the irony of it all. Trouble, confusion, and the weirdest things have always found you, even if you didn't look for them. So, just like that, your plans to spend some quiet time turn to ashes before your eyes. Literally. For as you fight the intruders, you hear a loud roar and shattering glass at your back as the flames grow higher and reach the wooden ceiling. First, the flames lick the poor reading corner, and it will not be long before you end up as a crispy roast. And so it's going to instruct us to flip the map tile AWB1B over to AWB1F, which is this top one here, where we started out, and each character caught by the fire suffers burn 2 as they step on lava terrain. Luckily, we got everyone out of there before that happened. And now it tells us the next time we get to that rune card, we are going to trigger another effect, which will then turn this even bigger square into fire squares to take burn 2. So we got ourselves in a good position here to get rid of this last enemy, which will unlock that door so we can get out of this room. We're back at the top of the initiative order with Vakram, and we're going to start with our Bravado as a range skill from the Bruiser roll. That's going to be a weapon attack with +3 to hit and Intimidate 2. And a 6 is a hit. And so now it is down to 2 health with Intimidate 2 on it. I don't think that Intimidate 2 is going to matter much. If we can just get one more attack in, we will defeat it. But unfortunately, it's not going to be with Vakram because he does not have another attack that is able to deal enough damage to defeat it. So what we're going to do instead is take a little detour, and we're going to use our move with Vakram to move here. And now we can go ahead and search this chest. And minor actions have changed a little bit in Awakenings from how it was previously. Now you can only do 1 free minor action per turn, but like movement, you can now pay action cubes to perform further minor actions. Searching a chest is one of the minor actions we can do when we are not engaged in combat, and since we are not in melee range of the Hellspawn Brute, we're able to do that. So let's roll on the trap die. And we roll blank. And Vakram scored a Potion of Strength, so we can discard this to give ourselves Cleanse 2 and Empower. Okay, and so Cleanse has also received a little bit of an update in Awakening, so now the target removes up to X, being the Cleanse number of curse cubes or condition stacks from its board. So if you had 3 fire tokens and 2 curse cubes, you could remove 2 curse cubes, or you could remove a curse cube and all of your fire with a Cleanse 2 ability. And it also gives us Empower, which is concentrating your energy. You prepare to deliver a powerful blow. When you empower, the next single weapon or spell attack you make this turn gains +4 damage. Now we'll use Vakram's agility skill to dash, which is going to let us move 3 again and then recall up to 1 action cube. And we're going to move over to the door and get a melee cube back to get us ready for whatever lies beyond. And now we'll move to Andreas. Andreas is already right where we need him to be, so let's just go ahead and use our melee skill to make this attack. And we got a 9. And that will deal 3 damage, defeating the Hellspawn Brute. And by defeating the Hellspawn Brute, we also unlock this door. So now Andreas will walk up, and we'll use his free minor action to open the door. And so, you leave the room in flames before it is too late. To imagine a way out of this nightmare is not an easy task, as you know that the streets are packed with those beings. Their battle cries echo and the smoke rises from the stairwells, creating an atmosphere of tension that does not help at all. However, it is clear that someone has taken it upon themselves to face these monsters in your place. Could this be your chance for a backdoor exit? Before you can decide, a distracted man in a rush hits you, both painfully and embarrassingly, in the hall, and he is not alone. And now we have a new cutscene trigger for whenever the last enemy is defeated. We will read Cutscene the Messenger on page 34. And since minor actions do not stop our movement, we're going to have Vakram move 1 more space in. And this is because the Fel Asteris that we just summoned have the Charge ability. And so Charge says that if a monster would move 3 or more spaces before their attack, that they get to double their damage. So 4 would become 8, but by moving Vakram in 1 more space further, we can avoid having them move 3 spaces to get to him. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the card. They're also immune to Intimidate and Stun. They're melee creatures with 12 health, 4 movement, 4 attack. They do have Regeneration 1, which will trigger at the start of their turn, Charge, which we just went over, and Bleed 1 and Pushback as their collateral damage options. And so Pushback is similar to Push, it just means we have to move 1 space further away from the monster that just attacked us. And now the Fel Asteris will activate. We're going to start with the yellow, moving towards Vakram because he is the strongest character right now, and attacking for 4. He only moved 2 spaces, so Charge will not trigger. Then we will use his melee cube for his leather armor, which will give us Prevent 2 and Move 2. So the attack of 4 is going to come through. We are going to prevent 2 of that, taking 2 damage, and then suffering Bleed 1 and Push. And then because of our leather armor, we also get to move 2, moving us back in range to where we won't take charge damage with the other Fel Asteris. And that puts Vakram at 10 health with 1 bleed token. And now the other fel will activate. And now since there's a 3-way tied for 10, we're just going to use the least amount of movement to get to Vakram. And then charge once again will not trigger for an attack of 4. And this time we'll use our blue cube to prevent 3 using our endure skill. So that means we're going to take 1 damage, push, and another bleed token, meaning Vakram is now down to 9 health and 2 bleed tokens. And then we're going to do our unwilling recall. So after the fel, it is Andreas' turn, and we only have an agility cube left to use. So we're going to go ahead and use that for the basic remove curse to heal 2 and cleanse 1 in unlimited range to Vakram. And so Vakram is going to heal 2 back up to 11, and then we're going to choose to remove the stack of 2 bleed with our cleanse. Then after that, he'll perform an unwilling recall, and we still have a movement and 1 action cube left. And while we would like to keep our high ground advantage to attack the skeleton archer, we know at the end of this round, when we get to that rune card, that the rest of this floor is turning to lava. So we want to get down at least into the next floor, and I think we'll tuck ourselves right back here behind the archer. And so since the fel are in close proximity now, even though they do deal a little bit more damage, I'm going to start trying to get rid of these pesky archers first with that multi-shot and poison. And we'll use a melee cube for our defensive strike, which is going to give ourselves 2 shield, and we get +3 to hit. And we will hit on a 12. That'll be it for Andreas, and now we will go to the archer's turn. And you can't see this guy in the shot right now, but he is moving forward now to get an attack on Vakram and on Andreas. And Vakram is going to choose to use his blue cube to endure and prevent 3, negating all the damage from the archer. And then Andreas has his 2 shield, and he's going to go ahead and take that 1 damage and suffer the poison as well. And then now for our green archer, our 2 strongest heroes right now are Nyx at 10 and Vakram still at 11. So the archer is going to find a way to just move 2 spaces to get in a spot to be able to hit both Vakram and Nyx for another 3 with poison. And Vakram is going to use a range cube for protect, which is an interrupt that prevents 3. Once again negating all damage to him. And then Nyx is going to use a green cube for her speed injustice. She gets to roll the d20 and prevent half the number that we rolled rounded down. So as long as we roll a 6 or higher, we will negate all damage. Okay, and so pretty much the worst thing we could have rolled, we got a 2. So we're only going to prevent 1 of those damage. And since we can only use 1 reaction skill each turn, we're not going to be able to supplement that with our cloth armor, so we do have to take that other 2 damage and poison 1. Now we're on to Katharina's turn. Okay, to start off Katharina's turn, I think we see a nice opportunity to use our range skill, Reality Revision. So we're going to get +3 to hit, and we get Telekinesis 3 if it hits. So we're hitting on a 4 or higher, and a 9 will do it. So that'll be 3 damage, and then we're going to move the skeleton archer up into the flames. Oh, lost the base there. And so the first time stepping on it, that skeleton archer will immediately gain burn 2. And now Katharina is unfortunately too far back to get out of this room this turn without using our last agility cube to move. And I don't really want to do that. So we're going to move Katharina forward as much as we can and then use a melee cube for our base remove curse to heal Nyx back up to full and cleanse that poison. And then it will go to Nyx. The first thing we'll do with Nyx this turn is get her into position and can just squeeze right through all of them to get that high ground positioning. We are then going to use a blue cube to perform like the shadows. We get to recall up to 1 other action cube and then go into stealth. So we're going to take that range cube off of bounce and go into stealth. And then now that pounce is uncovered, we're going to try a surprise pounce on the yellow fel Asteris. We get +3 to hit, and if the target is fine, it's going to take bleed 4, and this should only take it down to 6 if we crit, so just at that fine threshold. We needed a 4, and we got a 6. So that will take the fel Asteris down to 6 health, and then since it is still considered fine, it takes bleed 4. And we even had a +2 bonus to hit thanks to being in high ground. And with Nyx's turn over, we now are back to the rune card. So we're going to draw 2 rune tokens and then turn that tile into lava. And with that, we are back at the top of the initiative order with Vakram. Vakram is going to start by moving right in between the fel Asteris here. Because remember, we get our +1 damage bonus by being adjacent to 2 enemies. And we're going to do our arcing swing with our melee cube. We have a Fury token we could use, but I think we'll hold on to it for now. And we need a 4 or higher to hit. Okay, and we rolled a 17. So that'll be 3 damage to both Philisteris, taking the yellow Asteris to lethal range when he activates, and the pink Asteris down to 9 health. I'm then going to go ahead and use my free minor action to throw the bookshelf. And so now this is one of the new furniture icons here. And so what we can do with this, you have the option to interact or throw these different furniture types. And so they each have different things, so you got to kind of reference them at first until you get used to it. But the bookshelf, whenever you interact, you get to search the chest deck for a scroll card and keep it or immediately use it as a free action. Or you can throw it, and since it's too heavy to actually throw, it's more of a topple. You're toppling it over onto an adjacent enemy, and it's going to take 2 damage and become stunned. So now our pink Asteris is going to go down to 7 health and become stunned. Except now I'm remembering that they are immune to stun. So it's actually not going to be stunned, but we got a free extra 2 damage in there. And the reason we couldn't interact with it yet is because we are engaged in combat by being adjacent to monsters. So you cannot interact with furniture or objects whenever you are adjacent to monsters, but you can throw them, or in the case of a bookshelf, topple it. And now for our last action cube, we'll use our last melee cube for Bravado, which is a weapon attack with +3 to hit and Intimidate 2 onto the Philisteris. And again, it is immune to Intimidate, but it's our other melee attack we can use. And this one at least gets a bonus to hit. Our other one is stun, but no bonus to hit, and it's immune to stun, so we're going with the one with a better chance to hit. And that's a 13. So the pink Fel Asteris goes down to 3 health. Sorry, goes down to 4 health. And now it is their turn to activate. So when the yellow activates, its conditions go off first at 3 health and 4 bleed tokens. That defeats this Fel Asteris. And I am now realizing I did forget my extra +1 damages for being adjacent to 2 enemies onto the pink Asteris, so it is actually down to 2 health. And now the pink will go, and Vakram is still at the highest health with 11, so he's getting attacked for 4. And we're going to have Andreas help out here with a blue divert reaction to prevent 3. So Vakram is still going to take 1, going down to 10, take a bleed, and push. And that is all they will do, and on to Andreas. He's going to activate and take 1 damage from the poison, going to 8. And we'll start off by using a melee cube for Vigorous Strike, which is going to heal 2, and we're actually going to use that for Vakram to put him back up to 12. And then we're going to get +2 to hit, so a 5 or higher will hit the Fel Asteris. And unfortunately, that was another 2. We've been rolling a lot of 2s and a lot of 20s. But we still have 1 more cube action for the turn, so we'll use our range skill again for a baton pass with Nyx. So they are going to switch places, and then Nyx gets an attack bonus of +6 to hit. 3 from Hero Backer and 3 from Baton Pass. So only a 1 is going to miss here. Even if our lucky 2 hits, we will still hit, but we did get an 8. And so that is going to take care of the last Fel Asteris on the board. And to finish things off with Andreas, I'll go ahead and show off another furniture. So we'll use our movement to get over here by the crates. And we will use our minor action to throw the crates, which is going to remove the token and inflict Brittle onto the skeleton archer that is blue. And so what Brittle does basically makes your next weapon or spell attack against that enemy a critical hit. And so after Andreas, the skeleton archers will activate. So our blue archer is already in position to hit both Vakram and Nyx, so it's going to attack them for 3. And so Vakram will use his leather armor and Nyx will use her cloth armor to prevent 2 for each of them, but they're both still going to take 1 damage and poison 1. And they will both perform unwilling recalls after that. And because Vakram suffered damage, we are at Fury 2. And now our green archer only needs to move up 1 space to hit both Vakram and Nyx, who are still our strongest characters, for another 3 damage each. Vakram is just going to use his blue cube to endure and prevent 3, and then Nyx is going to roll for speed and justice again. And we rolled a nat 20. No other bonuses, but we do get to negate all of the damage, meaning neither of them are going to take poison either. And then we're going to go to Katharina. The skeleton archer did take its 2 burn. It's down to 1 health, so we're probably going to just ignore it and let it die out on its next activation. And now with Katharina up, we're going to go ahead and start by taking our 2 burn, going down to 6 health. So there is not much we can do with our agility cube that we have left, so we're going to take a willing recall to start out. And then I'm going to move into range for a Black Plague ranged attack on the skeleton archer. Okay, so this is a -2 to hit because we are attacking at disadvantage, so we need a 9 or higher. Okay, and we got a 14. So that is going to hit, and it is going to turn into a critical hit because this archer has brittle. So that's going to make this deal 6 damage, taking it to 3 health. And now the next weapon attack or spell attack is also going to deal plus 4 damage. So we are going to go ahead and use our Soul Link to deal guaranteed damage to finish him off. And after that, it is Nyx's turn. And now that the enemies are largely taken care of, it is time to just loot. We're going to start with a remove curse from Nyx to heal 2 and cleanse 1 Vakram. So Vakram goes up to 12 and will lose the poison. Then Nyx will spend a range cube to move 3 on top of her free move for a move 6 to get this chest all the way in the back. And now we're going to use our free minor action to roll the trap die. And we rolled the slow condition. So the next movement action that Nyx takes will have -2 movement to it. But let's see what we got from the chest. And we drew a Scroll of Beguile. Can discard to target a non-boss monster and evolve and charm. And so what this means is when the monster evolves, it gets a +2 damage and a +1 move token permanently for that battle. And then when we charm a monster, we get to immediately activate it and take its turn for it. So in that way, we use the buffed version of the monster to attack its own allies or to walk into harmful terrain. A very Nyx-like scroll, I would say. And so now we draw another rune and then send it back up to Vakram. We're going to start out by using an agility cube with Vakram to remove curse on Andreas, which will heal him back up to 10 and remove that poison. Now we'll do something fun that we have the chance to do. With that green archer sitting on 1 health, we can use Vakram's bounty range skill, which deals 1 spell damage, and if this attack is the killing blow, you get to draw a chest card. So we will defeat that archer and draw a chest. And Vakram drew, and we drew the Scroll of Polymorph. It's got the little capybara face on it. You can discard it to target a small character and polymorph. And so Polymorph is a pretty long and complicated ability. When we use it, we'll go back over it because it'll make a lot more sense when you see it on the board. And so, now that the last monster is defeated, we are going to read the cutscene, The Messenger. By the stars, you really know how to use that thing, huh? The man gasps as he looks at your weapon and notices you two are finally alone. Well, some might say our encounter was a fortunate coincidence, but given how you dispatched those things, I'm sure it was meant to be, he concludes, approving of you now. I know what I'm about to tell you sounds strange, but believe me, I need the help of someone like you. In fact, he did not lie. Downstairs, there is a warrior holding the perimeter so I can escape. But drunk as he is, soon those things will chop him up and I will have lost my much-needed escort. He spits out the words in haste, but you don't fail to notice his intriguing choice of words. I carry something far too important. Something that might help us understand the madness that is taking place. I must reach Vincent's vessel in the harbor if we are to stand a chance against what is about to come. The man doesn't seem scared, but rather preoccupied. Nonetheless, his request for help is a serious one. Your heart races as the thought of leaving the warrior alone downstairs crosses your mind. But if this man can be trusted, then many more lives can be saved if you find the cause for this nonsense. Not to mention, of course, the clothes bearing the colors of the Church of the Setting Sun he wears. The colors of the Doctrine. The same colors under whose contract Minerva disappeared. Could everything be just a coincidence? First, if you are currently in a hero's turn, which we just defeated the monster with Vakram, we consider that hero's move action spent and any remaining movement points from that effect lost. Then we remove all elements from the board and undo all current setups. Okay, so we're going to lose access to that last chest actually for not getting that. But I guess we got to get a bonus from the bounty, so it kind of evened out there. Finally, you now face a dilemma. As a group, you have to choose how you wish to proceed. On the one hand, if you want to help the messenger, read cutscene The Back Door on page 35. On the other hand, if you want to go downstairs and help the drunken warrior fight off the creatures, read cutscene A Hero's Stand instead. Now, we are not ones to turn away from a fight, I don't think. We are going to go help this drunken warrior out, no question. But before we check out the consequences of our choices, we are going to end the video here. This has been Solo Party. My name is Kane, and I will see you all next time.